Hello everyone, welcome to task for today TFT-16. We are studying paper 1 and we have reached topic 4D, and today we are going to study Talcott Parsons. We have studied about Karl Marx, Emil Durkheim and Max Weber. Karl Marx, he studied about the conflict perspective, while Emil Durkheim, he was a functionalist, and Max Weber, he studied the social action theory, and he was a interpretive sociologist. Now, Talcott Parsons, he was influenced by Emil Durkheim, but he modified the functionalist concept and he presented a new theory which was known as structural functionalism. Now we are going to see what is structural functionalism and how it differs from functionalism. Functionalism, as you know, it revolved around the idea of collective consciousness or collective conscience. It explained why there was consensus in society, why there was social order, why there was sharing of values, norms. So, functionalism explained this consensus part very nicely, that why societies hold together, why they stick together, what are the binding forces, but it could not explain conflict and radical social change. Also, functionalism lays importance on the constraints which society applies on the people or social structure applies on people, but it does not allow enough room for the creative actions of individuals. So it laid stress on the constraints. You remember social facts, they were external, they forced people to do something, they were coercive in nature, but it did not include about the creativity or the action part of individuals. Also, another part was that in functionalism, society was treated as an organism or physical organism, and just like in an organism, there are certain needs of every organ of the body or every organ of the organism. Similarly, the functionalists, they assumed that society also had certain needs just like human beings. For example, they assumed that the function of education and family was socialization. But what if the function of these social institutions has changed? This change was not explained by functionalism. Another aspect where it lacked was that functionalism did not explain the evolution of social institution. How did it evolve? Where did it start from? What happened in between? What was the process? And how did it reach where it is now? So this process was not explained by functionalists. So Talcott Parsons, he was interested in those aspects which functionalism did not address, and he wanted to address those parts. Structural functionalism was famous or was popular in the 40s, 50s and 60s. It is a version of functionalist theory and it was mainly followed by Parsons and Merton. Now, studying about Parsons, he combined the ideas of Durkheim, Weber and Wilfredo Pareto, and on the basis of their teachings, he came up with his theory. Now, functionalism, as you remember, it is based on the concept of social order. So, Parsons also, he studied the problem of social order. Now, what do we understand by this problem of social order? How can social order be a problem? So, the question here was that After the advent of capitalism, when individualism was on rise, where people were driven by self-interests, they had unending needs and desires, and they wanted to achieve their aims at the expense of others. In the midst of all this uncertainty and chaos, how could social order be maintained? This was the question which baffled Parsons. So, how society can hold together when all the individuals within are self-interested and pursue their own wants and needs, often at the expense of others. To understand this concept, that is order amidst chaos, Parsons gave the concept of value consensus. Values, as you remember, they are those qualities or anything which are desirable and worthwhile. For example, we can be driven by kindness or honesty, anything which we agree with others. For example, if I say that yes, kindness should be promoted or a person should be honest, then most of the people of the society, they will agree. Therefore, it was a kind of a common identity and it was shared among all the people. And this value, it drove the goal. So accordingly, a goal was set. And this goal, because let's say person A and person B, both of them, they agree that we should be honest. So their goal would be to transact their business honestly, to uphold integrity in their business. So this value is guiding their goal in their daily activities or everyday life. And accordingly, roles are assigned. What is a role? Anything which helps a person translate these values and goals into action. So action is defined by different roles. For example, if there is a factory, the aim of the factory is economic productivity or economic efficiency. Then, because this is our value, therefore the goal will be to give 100%, to efficiently produce goods. That will be the goal. And what will happen then? What will happen to the roles? The manager will assign roles, let's say to the line supervisor, to the machine operator. So all these people will perform different roles so that they can achieve the goal of 100% production. Why? Because the value is efficiency. That means, what does efficiency mean? It means to get maximum output with less input, right? So value consensus means, in a society, if you see that a society has certain understood values, norms, customs, behavior which it promotes, and societal goals or the common goals, they revolve around these values, and accordingly people have different roles so that they can effectively achieve these goals. When Parsons was studying about social order, he came across a philosopher known as Thomas Hobbes. According to Hobbes, in a society, people have conflicting desires, wants, and everyone is driven by self-interest. So the people of the society, they enter into a social contract. What happens in a social contract? In a social contract, the people, they allow a ruler to govern them, and this ruler will coercively force people to act in a certain manner. So he is the one, the ruler will curb people's desires, wants, and give a direction to society. So this control is a kind of negative control, because people, they always are in the fear of getting punished, and this is something external. Externally, the ruler is framing certain rules because of which the people, under the fear of this punishment, they act in accordance with the rules. But Parsons says that in order for a society to perform or function smoothly, a negative fear of punishment is not always necessary. Instead, a positive force can help people abide by the rules. How? When people will be committed to common goals, common values, then automatically they will follow the rules of society. So how can this happen? Why will people follow the rules of a society? When it has been internalized. Internalized means it is present, inherent in my nature, in my conscience. I know that this is wrong, this is right, and this is how I should behave. So who tells me this? I have been told to do so when I was a child, maybe by my family, by my mother, by my father, by my elders. So this process, as you remember, this is known as socialization, when a child is taught how to behave in a society and what norms and values to follow. And this teaching of values, or this transmission of values, is not always done in a negative manner, or the child is not punished, but he is taught lovingly that this is how it should be done. Yes, sometimes force may be used, or sometimes he may be scolded if he does something wrong, yet there is a positive connotation or positive energy which is associated with this internalization of social rules. So Parsons says that this social order comes because of positive commitment of people along with this punishment. Yes, punishment is there in society, but majorly the obedience to social rules happens because of internalization of social rules during socialization. So if you have to remember, or you have to tell in one word that what did Parsons say about social order, or how is it enforced, then you will have to remember socialization. Now, before starting Parsons' general systems theory, let's revise what do we understand by a system. If you remember that our body, or human body, is made up of several organs. Now, if we consider an organ as a system, right? System is an arrangement of two or more units which are interrelated to one another, and they have certain function as well as there is a structure. Okay. So here what happens in a human circulatory system. Deoxygenated blood, that means blood which is poor, that means lacking in oxygen, it enters the heart. From here it is entering, you can see here, right? Deoxygenated blood is entering the right side of the heart, then it is going to the RV. From RA it is going to RV, and then it is going to the lungs. In lungs it gets oxygenated, then this oxygenated blood enters LA, left hand side, and LA to LV, and then finally to the body in order to get distributed. If you consider the heart as a system, right? So something is entering it, that means input is there, and then some process takes place and there is an output, right? So you can put it like this: something is entering here, right? And then something is exiting here, and meanwhile some process is taking place inside. This is like a system, like an open system. Why open? Because there is an infusion or either input or output. It is not closed system. There is an interaction between this system and the surroundings. Let's consider the heart as a body or as a system. Then the other part, the rest of the body, will be the environment of the system. You don't have to remember this circulatory system or anything, but you need to remember this picture, or you need to visualize this in order to understand Parsons. Okay. Now, this block diagram that I mentioned, this is the process. Let's say this is the heart. Input, that means deoxygenated blood went inside, then heart plus lungs, something happened, and then there was an output to the body, right? So this block diagrams tells us that in a human body something similar to a social systems happens. Okay. Now, here you will see different terms. A system receives input from the environment, sends outputs into the environment after the transformation process. This is the input, this is the output. And another thing, something you can see here, there is a feedback loop. Okay. So this feedback loop is a sort of correction. If something goes wrong with the body, then there should be a controlled mechanism which will help the body to come to its original condition. So this is like an emergency measure. Okay, so that the body is stable, in a stable condition, or you can say in a healthy condition. Thus, feedback mechanism is a very important part of any open system. Okay. Now, a system consists of various subsystems. What is a system? It is a set or arrangement of things which is connected to form an organic whole. That means, let us say this is a system. It consists of various parts. These parts, they are interrelated to one another. Interrelated. They have certain functions and there is a structure. This is a system. Then what are these things? These are subsystems. So a system will consist of subsystems. These subsystems will be interrelated. They will have certain function and there will be a structure also. Talcott Parsons, he says that the system, it refers to a complex of interdependencies as mentioned here, because one subsystem cannot exist in isolation, cannot exist alone. No, it needs other subsystems. For example, in a body, heart needs the lungs, right? And they needs the veins also, artery also. Every organ has a certain function, allotted function, right? And there is a proper structure in the body. If you see the digestive system, there is a proper structure that the heart should be here, lung should be here, like that. It cannot be disturbed. Similarly, what Parsons says, that in a system also there are different subsystems and they all depend on each other, and there is a proper structure. Also, these subsystems and the system, they interact with the environment, the surroundings. Either they take something from the surrounding or they give something to the surrounding, and in the process sometimes change occurs. So, system involves, there are different parts, then there are interactions among such part, and also there is the concept of environment. So how are you going to define a system? You will say it consists certain parts, interactions, and there is an environment. So you have to remember these. And these parts are known as subsystems, which are interrelated and interdependent. In turn, they help in the functioning of the whole. And also, the system, it exists within a certain boundary, and beyond that boundary is the environment. The external environment is known as suprasystem. Now, since we are reading about social system, so you should understand that social system as well as the biological system, these are open systems. As mentioned before, open system means there is an interaction between the system and the environment. That is why it is known as an open system. We will consider only social as well as biological system. That means we are interested in open systems. We are not interested in closed systems. Okay. So here you can see open system, they have permeable boundaries. That means anything can pass from the, it allows the passage of particles or anything from here to there. This passage is allowed. It is not a rigid boundary where nothing is allowed. It is not like that. There are few terms that you should know. First one is synergy. Then second is homeostasis. Third is cybernetics. These concepts are associated with, if you have read in chemistry, we used to read that in a system, what happens? A system is considered to be whole. So this is known as synergy, and any system, it will try to be in equilibrium. It will try to be stable. It may not be 100% stable, but it will always try to attain at least 99% equilibrium. So this is known as dynamic equilibrium, because it is always tending towards equilibrium. It is not reaching that 100% equilibrium. This is known as homeostasis. And the feedback mechanism which I mentioned before, that was known as cybernetics, which helped a system restore its stability. So system is of two types, open and closed system. In open system, we are considering social and biological system, and they have permeable boundaries. They are in constant interaction with their environment. And another thing which we are going to study in detail with Parsons, because Parsons studied this concept of system in quite detail, he mentioned something about differentiation, specialization. This we are going to study in today's lecture. Okay, so here comes the general systems theory, which Parsons was interested in. There are few concepts which I mentioned in the previous slide. We will just go through them once again. A system consists of two or more units which relate to each other in a structural relationship, right? And they form an entity whose elements are functionally interdependent, right? So in system there are two concepts, structure and function. In a general systems theory, there is a fundamental assumption, that means basic of that theory is that there is an order, pattern, regularity and stabilization in human behavior. This is the structure part which Parsons was interested in. There is an order, even though human beings are different, but while interacting there is a certain pattern which is observed in their interactions. There is a certain regularity and this lead to stability in society. You have to remember these four concepts with respect to general systems theory. These are equilibrium. It is achieved when forces acting within a social system are balanced. That means if, let's say, this is a system, if one force, it is in stable condition, and if one force is applied here, then it may get deformed, right? So what will happen, another force, a reaction will come here so that it retains its stability. This is known as equilibrium. So what happens here, the forces that are acting on a body, they are balanced. Please try to remember your physics concepts. Another part is homeostasis, that means a stable condition which an organism strives to maintain. It tries to maintain this. This is known as dynamic equilibrium. The next concept is cybernetics, which is the feedback mechanism, because it is the one which is regulating a social system. It is seeing whether a system is stable or not, or if there is any disturbance, then what kind of corrective measure should be applied so that system returns to its stable position. And an open system like the social and biological system, where the system exchanges materials with the environment and maintains itself in a steady state. Steady means balanced state. Now, Parsons was interested in a social action theory. Social action, you remember, we had read in Theories of Weber. According to Parsons, a social system is a system of action. What do you mean by action? These are structures and processes by which human beings form meaningful intentions. Action is always associated with meaning, motive, intention, right? So Parsons also says that the structure of a society is because of actions. This gives society its structure. There is a pattern, regularity of social action. And this social action, what is being done? It is implemented in particular situations. Parsons gave 4 subsystems of human action system. So these were social action system, cultural, personality and biological. This is the human action system: social, cultural, personality and biological. Now this is what Parsons' theory is about. Action is the building block of system, and thus it forms a human action system. Human action system includes 4 subsystems. These are social, cultural, personality and biological system. But there is another point that you should remember. Although these social, cultural, political and personality and biological systems, these are subsystems of human action system, but these 3, they also form the environment of social system. That means any change in culture, personality and biology of the system, it affects the social system. That is why they are known as environment. So here social system is one of the primary subsystems of human action system, and the other 3, the cultural, personality and biological subsystems, they constitute a part of the environment of social system. Environment means any change in these will affect the social system. Now what is this social system? Social system is anything which integrates the society. So there are a society consists of people, of individuals who take part in social action. That is why they are known as actors. These actors, they perform different actions. There is a plurality. They are not same. There is difference. But they interact with one another and also with the environment. Also, these actors, they have certain aim or goal in society, so they gratify these goals. They are driven or motivated towards these goals. And a social system, it is culturally structured. It means it consists of a culture. Why? Because we share certain symbols, we share certain norms, values. These guide us in social action. Therefore, these shared symbols, they are responsible for ensuring collectivity in society. So the major function of a social system is integration of society. Integration. Right? So this is the first subsystem of human action system, which is social system. Now what is the next subsystem? Next subsystem is cultural system, and it is responsible for maintaining the patterns of a society. What do we understand by pattern? What do we understand by pattern? Maintenance. These patterns refer to symbols, meanings, cognitive beliefs and moral obligations. So whenever you talk about or you think of society or societal structure or a pattern, you should understand that this is not anything which can be touched or it is not tangible. No. These consist of certain symbols, belief systems, moral obligations. These are mental constructs. We can see them mentally, but these are not physical. These are not made of brick or mortar. These are not physical structures, but we can see them, we can experience their effect in society, we can experience social structure in the form of social order. Because when people from different backgrounds, they share the same symbols, they share the same beliefs or moral obligations, then they act in cooperation with one another. And this is actually the sign that society has certain common aspects, certain shared meanings, and these common aspects of a society, they give direction to a society, they help in maintaining the pattern of a society, and these patterns, they form the normative structure. Normative means ought to be, how I ought to behave, how you ought to behave, should, how should I behave. These norms tell me how should I behave. So the culture of a society, it tells the people that these are the symbols that you should understand, or you should pay respect to, or you are obligated to certain moral responsibilities, and you must believe in certain aspects of society, and this is how you should behave. Culture is the pattern maintaining subsystem. Now the next subsystem is personality subsystem. It helps in the goal attainment. The personality system, it is actually the living part of society. What is the living part of society? We, the people, the human beings, the actor. This is the living part because it is motivated to do something, it participates with one another, it interacts with one another, and it shows certain behavioral patterns. So main part or the implementation is done by the actor. Therefore, the goal is achieved through this actor or the personality system. Now the last subsystem is biological system. Now biology, as you know, is something which evolves, which changes over time along with change in the atmosphere or the environment. Similarly, in a society also what happens, the human beings, they are not rigid, they change, and they have a capacity to learn alternative patterns of behavior. For example, if a person, let's say he migrates to the cities from village, he is a village person, but he goes to cities in search of jobs, then he sees that the people there are behaving in certain manner, they are dressing in certain manner, they are speaking in certain manner, they are eating in certain manner. So he will adapt himself and he will learn this new pattern of behavior. This is known as plasticity of human organism, the ability to change. Plastic, it changes its shape. Similarly, human beings also, they can learn alternative patterns of behavior. The next point is that the human being is sensitive or accessible to influence. That means a human is open. If someone tries to influence him, or he likes the attitude of others, or he feels that yes, there is something that I can learn, then he takes these values. So he is open to influence. This is important because this helps a human being or a society to change. Whenever a progress is needed, whenever a development is needed, then if I am rigid, if I do not want to change, then I will not be able to grow, I will not be able to progress. But in a society, human beings, they are open to change, they are open to learning, they are open to influence, and that is why as a whole they progress. This is because of the adaptive subsystem or the biological subsystem. Now, Parsons says, after defining the 4 types of social action, the human action system or the subsystems, he says that, now we remember, a human action system consists of social, cultural, biological and personality and biological. Okay, this consists of the human action system. So Parsons, he starts studying this social system. What happens in a social system? Because a society is a social system. So according to Parsons, any society, just like an organism, a society also has certain functions that it needs to perform. These are known as functional prerequisites, because these are required for the stability of the system, for the maintenance of order of the social system. A social system has 4 functions. First is adaptation, that means to produce and allocate fluidly disposable resources. Adaptation means change. So here I will, according to my goal, I am going to change my or adapt to these resources, right? So I cannot fulfill my goal or I cannot achieve my goal using the same sources. I need to keep changing these sources. So this changing source or changing resource is known as adaptation. Second function of a social system is goal attainment. Here I am going to maximize the capacity of the society to attain goals. How can I maximize the capacity? By allocating certain actors, that means people, as well as resources for the attainment of the goal. So people will act and simultaneously I am also going to use the resources. Third function of social system is integration. In an integration, what happens? I allot the rights and obligations to ensure harmony of relations between the members of a social system. So here the motivation part comes into picture, the culture comes into picture, because it is going to unite people so that they can come together to achieve this goal. But during the execution or while implementing the plan, there might be certain differences among the people, and some might not agree with another, some might engage in disruptive behavior. So at that time I need to maintain unity, I need to motivate people so that they can conform with the cultural values of society, and I will reward them for those who are acting in accordance with the social values. But if someone is engaging in certain behavior, disruptive behavior, then that also I need to manage. Therefore, this is pattern maintenance and tension management function. So the 4 social functional prerequisites are adaptation, goal attainment, integration, pattern maintenance. These 4 functions are required in order to ensure or in order to bring stability in a social system. Now these four functional prerequisites are also known as functional problems, because if there is disagreement in society, if people do not agree with one another, this will affect the integration, right? People will not be united, they will not be bound together in society. This will affect the goal attainment, and if, let's say, I have to attain certain goal, if I do not change or modify my resources, then I might not be able to succeed, or I might not reach the desired goal. So if pattern is not maintained, if there is no integration, if goal is not attained, if there is no adaptation, then society or social system will not function properly and social order will be affected. Therefore, according to Parsons, what is the solution to this social problem? Society, what it does? A social system, it differentiates, it divides itself into four parts, or you can say four organization or social institutions, and in order to take care of these functions, so it allots one institution for the pattern maintenance, another institution to maintain integration, third for goal attainment, and fourth for adaptation, because only one institution cannot perform the role of, or cannot tackle the problems of pattern maintenance, integration, goal attainment and adaptation. It needs four different organs to tackle with these four problems. What are these four organs? These are economic subsystem, political subsystem, community subsystem, and education and socialization subsystem. So here you can call this as like a division of labor or division of responsibility, distribution of responsibility. So the adaptation function, the responsibility is given to economic subsystem. The goal attainment function, the responsibility is given to the political subsystem. Integrative function, it is given to the community subsystem. And latency or pattern maintenance, it is given to education or socialization subsystem. Now can you guess why these responsibilities have been given to these subsystems? Because when a society progresses, let's say from a pre-industrial or a primitive society to an industrial society, then the economy changes. So we are changing the economic resources, we are adapting to new resources. Therefore the economic subsystem, it changes itself according to the needs of society. Now the political subsystem, it is responsible for the execution of any plan. You remember the 5-year plan and everything? Everything is done by the polity or governance. Therefore the goal attainment of a society is, the function is given to the polity. Integrative function is given to the community subsystem, because it is going to hold society together. And the pattern maintenance of a society is done by education. Pattern maintenance means are, for example, culture, values, norms, all these we learn in school, in our families. Therefore they are teaching us how to behave when we grow up, when we face different situation, how we should behave. So latency, by latent means anything which is hidden. So these values are hidden in our society and hidden in us. And when the time comes, when a situation comes, then these get manifested, they show themselves, they show us the way of behaving. Thus, this division of responsibility is known as differentiation and specialization. You remember in the beginning I told that we are going to learn about differentiation and specialization in an open system. So social system is an open system, and here, in order to take care of different functions, it divides or it differentiates itself into 4 types, that is into 4 subsystems, which are economic subsystem, political subsystem, community subsystem and education subsystem. These are responsible for the implementation of 4 functional prerequisites, which are adaptation, goal attainment, integrative and latency function. Thus, you can see here, this is known as structural differentiation. For social order and development change, certain functional prerequisites are there which have to be performed in a society, and for this purpose, structure or social system is divided into 4 subsystems. These are adaptive subsystems, which is the responsibility is given to the economy, goal attainment subsystems to the polity, integrative subsystems to the political parties, interest groups, health agencies, courts, legal, by the enforcement of law, right? And the pattern maintenance or the latency function is given to family, religion, education, which are responsible for socialization, inculcation of values, norms, beliefs in our society, in us. Now, Parsons, he is known for his contribution to understanding of social change. Durkheim, if you remember, he did not explain radical social change or social change properly, and because he was more interested in the collective conscience or maintenance of status quo or order. But Parsons, he was interested in understanding the process of social change. So what he said that any change in one subsystem will lead to a change in others. For example, this is social, this is cultural, personality and biological. So if there is any change in culture, this is going to affect society. If there is any change in personality system, this will affect society. Similarly, biological system, this will affect society. Like that, change in one will lead to change in another. So whenever a change takes place, there is a disturbance in the system, and because of this disturbance, a reaction force is produced in order to counter or in opposition to the disturbance, and finally an order or stability is restored in the particular subsistence, in this case social systems. But even though society returns to its original state, yet some parts of the society remain changed. What does this mean? Suppose this is society. It is in a stable condition. Now one force start acting. So in return, what will happen? A reaction force will act here. But this force, that is external force, it succeeds in producing certain change in society. Here let's say this is the change, right? So now the society or social system is like this. So although it looks as if it is stable and there is order in society, yet there is this dent in society, there is a certain change because of this reactionary force. That is what is meant by social change. The change which remains even after social stability has been restored. Therefore, Parsons says that a society or social system can never attain complete equilibrium. It will always tend towards equilibrium, but it will never attain 100% equilibrium. That means it will not be stable 100%. It will always be in a state of moving like this. This is equilibrium position. So it will tend towards equilibrium. It will always move towards this equilibrium, but it will not reach 100% equilibrium. Why does it not reach 100% equilibrium? Because a social system is always under the influence of certain external forces, certain external changes, certain external disturbances. Therefore, a society or social system can never be 100% equilibrium. Equilibrium means a state of stability or order. And this social change, the theory given by Parsons, it explains social evolution or evolution of societies as well as social institutions, which was not explained by functionalism. Parsons says that when societies evolve from simple to complex societies, then it reflects the general adaptive capacity of the society. That means the ability to change. Now this change, if you remember, the adaptive function is undertaken by the economy of a society. When we say a society has changed from simple to complex societies or simple to advanced societies, then usually it is the economy of the society which has changed or which has adapted. Right? But for Parsons, he says that more than the economy, it is the culture, the change in culture, which is actually responsible for the change in different patterns. This pattern which defines social structure, pattern of behavior, symbols, moral obligations, all these are defined by a culture of a society. So when a society changes from simple to complex societies, according to Parsons, it is the culture which changes. So he defines these cultural changes in the form of two types of patterns. He says that simple societies, they follow a certain pattern of culture which is given by pattern variables A, and a complex society, the culture is defined by pattern variable B. So pattern variable is nothing but the cultural values. So Parsons says that a primitive society and an advanced society will have different pattern variables or different cultural patterns, and he defined these on the basis of Tönnies, Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. What are these? These are integrating towards community and individualism. So according to Parsons, a simple society, the values or the culture will point towards community spirit, while in the advanced societies or advanced society, complex societies, the pattern of behavior or the culture will point towards individualism. And it is these pattern variables which are going to direct an actor in a different situation. Whenever an actor faces a situation, he will always face a dilemma or dichotomy, and he will think whether I should follow pattern variable A or pattern variable B. He will always have to make a choice between these two pattern variables. So these define the 5 dichotomies or 5 dilemmas. What are these 5 dilemmas? They are effectivity versus effective neutrality. That means gratification versus discipline. Gratification means if I want to go for some leisure activity, if I want to relax, then I will immediately undertake that activity. But if I am a disciplined person, if I am in the favor of discipline, then I will delay gratification, or I will postpone my leisure activity, and I will take the pain of discipline, and maybe I will study or complete a project, and then I will go for this leisure activity. So this dilemma always comes before a person, that whether he should go for some leisure activity or he should delay it and he should apply discipline. Another dilemma which a person faces is that whether he should take care of his own interest or a public interest. This is known as self-orientation or collectivity orientation. So this dilemma also comes before an actor. The third type of dilemma is particularism versus universalism. Here it means the value orientation. So suppose there is a teacher in a class and she is teaching the class, and there is one candidate, let's say A, and he is the son of a family friend, okay, this student. So the teacher, she might be partial towards this student, she might favor, she might not punish this student A. Why? Because she knows this person. So she is being particular. She is being particular in this case. But as far as the other students are concerned, if they do something wrong, she will punish them, she will not favor them. So she is using the standard of universalism. That means everyone is being treated equally, they will be punished, but she will not punish this particular person as she knows him. Then there is another aspect, which is whether I should go for quality or performance. That means either the ascription or achievement. So what does this dilemma mean? For example, in the case of employment, sometimes when during giving compulsory retirement, the quality of the person is seen. For example, if the person is aged, then he is told that yes, you cannot function properly, you cannot do things fastly, therefore you should retire. But while recruiting that person, while taking that person into job, a recruitment test or merit is taken into consideration. So different situations demand different kinds of decisions. The last pattern variable is diffuseness versus specificity. What does this mean? For example, if there is an employer and an employee, so they share a particular relationship which is impersonal. That means they are related to one another only because of the job that is to be performed. So there is a very specific relationship that they enjoy. Okay, this is specific. But if there is a family and the there is a couple, husband and wife, then their expectations from one another are not fixed. For example, in the case of child rearing, the responsibility of father is different, mother is different. Similarly, in the case of housework, their responsibilities are different. Then in the case of employment or kind of job they are doing, both of them are having different obligations, different responsibilities. Therefore, the responsibilities of the father and mother or the husband and wife, it is not fixed. It is not defined by only one relationship like that of between employer and employee. It is defined on various parameters, on the basis of the child, on the basis of the housework, on the basis of the employment. This is known as diffuseness. That means the scope of interest here is wide. So here you can see there are 5 pattern variables which Parsons defined, where people face a choice in different situations. Now Parsons says that these choices or pattern variables which people face, they can be divided into 2 types, which are pattern variables A and pattern variables B. Pattern variable A is for primitive society and this is for advanced societies. And this is based on community and this is based on individualism. So here, for example, ascription versus achievement. What is ascription? Status. Anything that we are born with, a quality that we are born with we cannot change. That means our age, caste, race, status, these are all everything that we are born with. Type of family, this is ascription. But achievement, that means which we have obtained because of our merit. Like here, a status. For example, if we achieve something through hard work and our status changes, then that we have achieved through our merit. Then diffuseness, just like the husband-wife example, here people enter into relationships with others to satisfy a large number of needs. For example, the relationship between mother and child. It is not defined by one parameter, but there are several parameters to this relationship. But between an employee and an employer, there is only one relationship, or there is a specific relationship. This is defined by specificity. The third type is particularism versus universalism. For example, individuals, they act differently towards different people. Okay. For example, they are loyal to their family, but they are not to strangers. This is particular behavior, specific. But at universal, what happens? Individual will act according to universal principles. For example, law. Right? Everyone is equal before the law. Even if a police person has to arrest the spouse, they will do it because they have to follow the law. Then another point is effectivity versus effective neutrality. Here gratification is immediate. That means if I want to go for any pleasure, then I will fulfill my desires immediately. But here I will discipline myself. I will delay gratification because I know that this is not good. I should save some money. I should not spend that money because I need that money to buy a house perhaps. The last one is whether it is collective orientation or self-orientation. So when people put the interest of the social group to which they belong, then it is known as collective orientation. But if they pursue their own interest first, then it is the self-orientation. Right? So here you can see that Parsons, he explains about social change social evolution, and in this process he explains that how a social system, it needs to differentiate itself into 4 kind of institution which can take care of adaptive, goal attainment, integrative and latency or pattern maintenance function. This is known as social differentiation. So here what is happening? The institutions and the roles of the social institutions are differentiated and specialized. That means there is a certain job profile, there is a certain responsibility of every social institution. But what happens when different organs of the society are performing different function, AGIL? There may be some problem in integration, okay, because everyone is doing some other function. There might be a problem in the unity, there might be some problem in the order of the system. So Parsons gives a solution to this problem of integration which arises due to differentiation. So what is the solution here? He says that we can go for generalization of values. So in any society there will be a particular set of values which are to be obeyed by the people of the society, of the industrial society. So when this happens, when people know that there is a certain set of values that they have to abide by which are universal, then they will cooperate with each other because they agree with the values and they will unite. For example, even though we understand that in a society there are different kinds of occupations, different kinds of rewards, different kinds of promotions for different people, but we know that this is how it should be for us to achieve something in society. So the people accept that there is something known as merit, and because everyone is judged according to merit, therefore some will perform higher and some will be in the lower category. So people accept this division, they accept this universal standard of achievement of meritocracy, and that is why they accept this division of reward and role allocation. If they did not accept this universal standard of achievement, if they did not accept meritocracy, then they will not accept this higher and lower set of rewards and role allocations. They will say, no, if the other person is doctor, then I will also be a doctor. But no, here what is happening here? That people, every person or most of the people of a society, they accept that meritocracy governs a society, and that is why different people are performing different functions, different roles, and some are maybe paid higher than others, but each one is useful or functional to the society. And it is this factor which drives everyone and it binds everyone. That is why social integration and social order are maintained. This is Parsons' solution to social differentiation or the problem of integration. The differentiation, the social system, this is the system that comes into being. So this is the social system, and it is divided into 4 functions. The functions of a society are divided into 4 types: adaptive, goal attainment, integrative, latency, and these are taken up by different subsystems, which is economic, political, community and education. And together, even though they are differentiated, Together they are responsible for integration or order of the society. So you may come up with this question, or you may come across this question in the question paper or anywhere, that how despite social differentiation, social integration is possible in Parsonian's sociology or Parsonian theory. So you have to describe this process of social differentiation and social integration. So in short, we learned about human action system today, and we learned that human action system consists of social subsystem, cultural subsystem, personality subsystem and biological subsystem. The social subsystem, it performs the integrative function, cultural performs the pattern maintenance or latency function, personality performs the goal attainment function, and biological subsystem performs the adaptive function. And the social subsystem, it is divided into 4 subsystems or 4 structures, you can say. This is known as differentiation. It is differentiated into 4 types or 4 functions. These are adaptive, goal attainment, integrative and latency, right? So this is what is a social system and